Hello, welcome to Clockwise, produced by Netisens ICT. Clockwise is a podcast where we unravel the trends of technology and explore the endless possibilities that lies ahead. Now, every week we bring great minds and have interaction with great minds to spark your curiosity about the ever-evolving landscape of technology, career, and lifestyle. My name is Providence Essien, and I'm your host. Welcome to the Sanctuary of Greatness. As usual, every week we do interesting conversation with an interesting guest that will interest you. And today is not an exception. But as usual, you are going to meet my guests after this break. Welcome back. Like I said earlier, today we're having a very interesting conversation, a very interesting topic that will interest you. And we have a special guest, a cybersecurity expert who has been here on several occasions, but today we'll be discussing something very different, which is cyber health. Please, without much ado, I want you to put a resounding virtual round of applause as I welcome Mr. Ekandem. Welcome again, Mr. Ekandem.
Thank you very much.
Welcome again.
Thank you.
You're not a new face to this particular podcast.
No, well.
But that does not mean we're going to keep to the tradition and the culture. You see, all of our guests, whenever they are here, we give them a little time to tell us about themselves, even if we've talked about them a little. But I'll give you this opportunity also. Please tell us a little about yourself.
There's nothing to say about myself. You have said almost everything. I'm a cybersecurity professional. I'm a tutor at Netisens ICT. I'm a tutor with the Federal Government 3 MTT program. I teach cybersecurity. I also work with different organizations, some of which I can't mention the name as a cybersecurity professional. So that's the size about me.
All right, now we're having a very interesting conversation today, and that will be on cyber health.
Okay.
One thing I have to do with health, I like us having basic definition of what we are doing so that everybody will be on the same page.
Okay.
Since we're talking about health, I'd like to also have a little conversation that will revolve around definition of certain terms.
Okay.
First, before we proceed, what is cyber health?
Cyber health, just like normal health, is actually the act of finding out your state as far as security, online security is concerned. For example, let me use an example that will be easy for people to understand. Just like your health, if you have malaria, that means you are not in good health. The same thing with cybersecurity. In terms of online security, what is your position? Are you vulnerable to online attacks? Are you vulnerable to data theft, data breach, data security threats?
Okay.
If your level of preparedness, your level of what I would say, your position in terms of online threats is your health. If you are healthy in this regard, that means you have actually positioned yourself to ensure that if there is a threat, you are most likely going to not going to suffer so much.
Okay.
And then if your health is poor in terms of cybersecurity, cyber health, if your cyber health is poor, that means you are vulnerable to any attack that could happen.
Can we say that cyber health also revolve around antibodies and the rest of it? You want to relate them to normal health?
No, yeah. So it's let me give you a very clear example. It's like, when you have HIV.
Okay.
HIV is actually not a disease itself, or it's not what actually kills but it actually renders the body, it brings down the immunity
system,
so it renders the body vulnerable to any opportunistic infection. So the same thing happens here. If your cyber health is poor, that means you are open to any threat, any online threat to have it can actually affect you.
Now, recently I heard something and I said, okay, if I have opportunity to speak with you again, I will talk about that.
Okay.
Now I heard something that has to do with cyber health care. Now, from the normal health care, it has to do with prevention, has to do with tests, you understand?
Yes.
Diagnosis and the rest. Now, what is really cyber health care?
So cyber health care is about looking at conducting a risk analysis, a vulnerability analysis. Because like we said, the health, your cyber health, it actually has to do with the degree of vulnerability to online attacks. So the care itself is, first of all, you assess your vulnerability. Then you take steps to improve your position You know, so if, let's say for instance, you know that you have social media accounts that you have not implemented a multi-factor authentication.
Okay.
That means your cyber health is poor. So what you need to do is the act of implementing a multi-factor authentication, the act of implementing strong passwords, the act of implementing security controls to reduce your vulnerability to online threats is actually cyber healthcare.
Okay. Now, what is the aim of cyber healthcare?
The aim of cyber healthcare is actually to protect you from online threats. Like I said in the previous episode, the moment you are connected to any network, whether it be internet, whether it be internal network, you are vulnerable to threat. In fact, sometimes even your PC, that is because a lot of people, when we talk about cybersecurity, they think it's about online threats or network and all those things. Physically, if your PC, if your device, if your data, if your information assets is exposed to unauthorized or to someone that is not authorized, or to someone that has ill intention, sometimes not even ill intention, but someone who is not authorized to manage that particular asset, then you are exposed to risk. So what that means is that you have to at all times monitor, find out how vulnerable are you to security threat. It's something that you have to do. Let me also use this opportunity to talk about security, health, cyber health, and cyber audit. Some people don't understand the difference between both of them. Is that what they
call cyber health check?
So yeah, cyber health check and cyber audit.
Okay.
Let me put it that way. Okay. So cyber audit is a one-time activity that you do. You audit your security posture. But cyber health check is a continuous process. It's not something that you do. It's something that you infuse into your organizational culture, if in the context of organizations, so that you continue to do this. For instance, I recommend, my students, even organizations I work for, I always recommend having a checklist. A checklist that you, because when you do, well, my experience has been that when you do cyber audit, everybody gets prepared for that audit. And then immediately after the audit, people relapse back to what they're used to. But if you do kind of a health check that goes in real time, where you integrate cyber awareness, cyber security awareness into organizational culture, that means it's difficult for that organization to be attacked, because the people by default understand, okay, let's say you want to create an account, and you know that, okay, by the culture of the organization, there's a password policy that you have to follow. You know, the reality is that most employees don't deliberately try to expose their organizations to cyber risk, a risk of cyber attack, but they always try to follow the path that will allow them to do their work easier and faster. And they always opt for convenience. Unfortunately, it's like a seesaw. So convenience and security. You know, for example, it will be easier, it will be good for you to have what we call a single sign-on, meaning that you can, if you are signed into a particular service, you could use that to sign into others. For example, if you are signed into a Gmail account, you can actually use that to sign into your social media accounts. You can use that to sign into a lot of other accounts that you have, online accounts that you have. It's easier, it's convenient, isn't it? But it also exposes you to risk, because if a threat actor has access to one of those, your password, or has access to your email account, maybe you know, sometimes we even you could open your PC, you leave it, maybe you want to pick something, and a threat actor comes in, he has access to your email account. So from your email account, they could actually get into your other social media account or other online account. So the single sign-on affords convenience, but that convenience is you know, risks, you know, heightens cybersecurity risk, the risk of attack. So the fact there is that if you conduct not just health check, but health check and then infuse cybersecurity you know, tips, it actually helps the organization to imbibe that culture, and that means it's more difficult for a threat actor to launch most especially a phishing attack and be successful.
Okay, now, but still on the cyber health check. Now, will you say, is it healthy for somebody to have a single password for almost all the engagement online?
Okay. So there is a checklist. One of the things on the checklist is that you should not have a single password for your account. In fact, don't have. I recommend that don't even have one password for two accounts. Accounts. Yes. Okay. So what happens is that I spoke with someone some time ago, and the person, how can I have, one of my students actually, how can I, let's say I have 20 accounts.
Yes.
How can I have different passwords? How am I going to remember those passwords? So that is why you need to have a password manager. A password manager allows you to have just one password to the manager itself, okay. the app itself, and then from the app you could have other other passwords saved there. And the advantage there is that you want to reduce the attack the attack vector, because if someone actually gains access to one account or one of your password, that means, and most especially because a lot of people don't even go for multi-factor authentication. So if he has access to one password, he could literally sign into all of your accounts. That's very risky. So the advice is have a password manager and then have unique passwords to every single online account that you have. And I always advise companies, businesses, individuals, always have a password policy. In fact, before we used to say 12 characters. Now is 8 characters. Now the recommended character length is what? 12. It should have a uppercase, lowercase, numbers, special character. It should have a combination of that, because it's more difficult for a brute force attack to reveal such passwords.
Okay, now what is the place of multi-factor authentication in cyber health?
So multi-factor authentication actually adds a layer of security.
Okay.
Yes. So that means what multi-factor authentication means is that you don't just use just your email and your password. Let me tell you something about authentication. One of the things, there are 3 things that we use to authenticate people, users. Number 1, what you know, which is your email and your password. Number 2, who you are, which is your biometric. Maybe your fingerprint or your retina scan. Okay. Your retina. Good. Or what you have, which is your one-time password, meaning, for example, you have a device that a one-time password can be sent to. You have an authenticator that you can get an authentication code. Do you understand? So those 3 things, a combination of those 3 things, we always say at least 2 of them. So you could have your password, and then you have authenticate you could have an SMS backup, meaning that a code will be sent to your phone that you have to use and further authenticate. Or you could have, of course, SMS, nowadays we even recommend a Google Authenticator because of the possibility of SIM swap. Because if there's a SIM swap, that means that an attacker that has access to your password could simply do a SIM swap and the code will be sent to their device, not yours. So we always recommend an Google Authenticator because it's bound to the device. Do you understand? Good. Then or you could do your password and your biometric identification. So any of those 3, but if it's the 3 of them, it will be very well, it will be excellent. But if you can pick any combination of the 2 of any 2 of them, is fair enough. So that is what will enhance your cyber health as much as possible.
Okay, now can you give us practical steps on this cyber security check?
Okay, so for example, number 1, you ask yourself a question. You have online accounts. Do you have a strong password?
Okay.
That means a combination of, I mentioned earlier, number one, how many people have access to your password, know your password? How often do you change your password? When I was with Abuja Electricity, the policy was we change it every 6 months. You wouldn't have access to your account if you don't change your password in 6 months. Every 6 months. Okay, good.
So do we change ours after every 6 months?
Yes, the recommendation is change after 6 months. That 6 months is like the maximum.
You can change below.
You can change every 1 month, every 2 months. You know, in fact, the moment you suspect that someone must have had access to this or known this password, or you are notified that your password, your credentials, was involved in a data breach, you must change those credentials. Yes. Then you also ask, have you implemented a multi-factor authentication on your account to ensure that it's difficult for a malicious actor to gain access? You ask yourself, the device that you have, is it protected from online threats? For example, a lot of people can't wait to see a public Wi-Fi, a free Wi-Fi. You just connect. And then not just that you connect, you also use that same network to do what? To make financial transactions.
Which is very dangerous.
Which is very dangerous, because a guy that is standing that is on the other side can actually use, in fact, there is packet sniffers that we can use to capture, to evaluate the content of the data packet.
Now hold your
that
thoughts.
moves.
When we are back from this break, I'd like us to continue from packet sniffers, because you're trying to delve into very important issues. Now, after this break, we are going to come back. Thank you very much. Take it away.
At Netisens, we have built our state-of-the-art, serene and conducive workspace. It is fully equipped with all the facilities to have a comfortable and an amazing work time in our hub. If you need a place to work, handle your business meetings, or take that exams, our workspace offers 24/7 power supply, unlimited access to internet, overnight hours, private space, and business services. Welcome to our versatile conference hall, a premier space that accommodates gatherings of 50 to 70 persons. Nestled within our facility, this conference hall is designed to cater to a diverse range of events, making it an ideal choice for both professional and social occasions. With its spacious layout and comfortable seating, our conference hall provides an optimal setting for seminars, workshops, trainings, and conferences.
Welcome back. We are still discussing cyber health, and our guest, Mr. Ekandem, is around. But before we go into the conversation again, I'd like you to like, subscribe, share, and also turn on the notification bell, because every week we ensure that we have amazing content that you not want to miss. Welcome back. Welcome, Mr. Ekandem.
Thank you.
Before the break, you were talking about packet sniffers.
Okay, so what I meant was that if you connect to a Wi-Fi, an unsecured Wi-Fi, so what happens is that someone can literally hook up a packet sniffer. Packet sniffers are actually what we use to capture and analyze network traffic data. So that means someone can literally kind of find out what the information, the debit or credit card information that you used, you know, for the payment, and you know what that means, the risk that portends. So it's one of the things I advise is don't connect to a public Wi-Fi, especially if you are going to do financial transactions.
So it's very dangerous.
Yes, very dangerous. Then the next thing you should also ask yourself, some of us visit websites. We just visit a website and then we don't know whether the website is secure. You know, you want to look for a padlock. You want to, it must be HTTPS. Hypertext Transfer Protocol secure. So you want to look out for that before you even. In fact, you shouldn't even visit a website that doesn't have HTTPS. As a matter of fact, then you want to keep away from emails that come from unknown sources. For example, someone sends you an email, especially with an attachment. Don't be so eager to download the attachment and open it, because that could be a phishing attack, you know, a phishing attempt. And then if you open it, you could actually be downloading malware onto your system. Also, links are sent to you. You know, you don't be such in a hurry to click it. In fact, what I always tell people is, if you see an email, always look at where it's coming from. And be careful that the URL, that is a domain name, let me call it that way, the domain name is the exact domain name as the one you're familiar with. Because sometimes someone could register and a malicious actor could register a similar domain name and change just one letter. And then if you're not very careful to look at it, you think that, of course, they could use the same design, the same branding of your maybe same company, the same logo and everything, you know. And then if you're not careful, you could actually, oh, this must be for my company, and then you click through. And then you get to a website where you'll be asked to provide some details, and you unwittingly, in an unsuspecting manner, provide those details, and then they use those details now to go to the genuine website and drain your funds. So, so there are a lot of things. These are some of the things that you look at. Also, how often do you update the apps that are running on your phone? You know, if I ask people, how often do you update the apps that are running on your phone? Some people say, I don't remember the last time I did it. But these are things you have to do regularly, because most of those updates that you see are actually security patches. Yes, if there's a vulnerability on an application, the developers will work on, on a patch to those vulnerabilities, and then these are actually released in subsequent versions of that particular application. So we always encourage people to do what to update the apps on their devices as soon as possible. Some people have PCs that they literally disable automatic updates. Yeah, okay, I don't want it to drain my data. My data. But do you realize that which is better, for you to lose access to your very important and sensitive data, or for you to subscribe to or to have your system automatically update? If you can time your updates, I always tell people there are some times of the day, sometimes especially in the night, where you can get data access at a relatively cheaper rate. You know, why don't you make it a point of duty? Maybe in the night you could subscribe for a night plan, and then do all your updates, both on your mobile phone, your PC, and all other assets that hold all other devices that hold your information assets. You could do that. What you are now doing is to ensure that if there is any vulnerability, you keep yourself away from those. So that's what. And then, of course, use antivirus software. Some people actually downplay this. You know, you could have the fact that your phone is not has not crashed, your PC has not crashed, doesn't mean there is no malware. There are a lot of malware that could sit idly or sit quietly in your device and be spying on your SPII, that is your sensitive, personally identifiable information. It could be spying on those and sending those those very sensitive data out to a malicious actor who could use that to impersonate you, and then of course launch an attack. So you want to close all the loopholes. Okay. You want to go after all the attack vectors. You know, you don't use someone okay, please can I have your flash drive? Let me just use and copy something. No, that could be a threat. That could actually be a means through which an attack vector, a means through which you could be attacked. So you want to be very careful about the devices you connect to your device, your PC. You also want to be careful about the network you connect to. You understand? That will ensure that, because if you are able to be careful about, wary about all of this, then it will be very difficult for a threat actor to launch a successful attack. Okay, now away from you've answered it very well. Away from cyber health, we're told that a good hygiene will lead to good health. Yes. So please, can you just throw more light on what cyber hygiene is? Cyber hygiene is the act of ensuring that anything that exposes you to cyber risk is taken care of. Just like hygiene, where you clean yourself. Okay. All those what I can call attack vectors, you clean them off. Or every attack vector, you clean it off. The act of doing that is actually what we call cyber hygiene, and we always encourage that especially in the corporate level. That's why when I started, I talked about cyber audit and cyber hygiene. So I said it is cyber hygiene, cyber audit and cyber hygiene, where you actually do this constantly, just like when you take your bath. Let me give you an example. For example, maybe you could schedule your hospital checkups maybe once a month, once a year, or once a quarter, or twice yearly. You know, but your hygiene, do you do that? You do that daily, on a daily basis.
Okay.
That's exactly the same thing. So your cyber hygiene has to be an ongoing process.
Okay, your cyber health care can be once in a while.
Yes.
Your cyber hygiene has to be daily.
It has to be daily. So your cyber health care is something that you do a lot more often than once a year. Cyber audit is actually what is once a year.
Okay.
Cyber health has to be, it has to go on continually. You know, but cyber hygiene is something that you do, you literally integrate into your culture, so that you are one step ahead of the attacker, the threat actor.
Okay.
You are always one step. All the pathways through which we call it attack vectors, all the pathways through which he could actually get access to you or your important information, you block them.
Okay.
That's what cyber health allows you to do, which goes back to all the things I had mentioned
initially.
Yeah, all those. Now,
I want you to throw more light on cyber hygiene safety, and that should be on your final note.
Okay, so
cyber hygiene safety.
Hygiene safety is, you have to, it has to do with, you know, I talked about the practice of taking those steps.
Yes.
So the steps themselves
is hygiene safety.
So the safety, where you have a checklist that you tick off. Okay, this one, am I vulnerable to this? No. What have I done? Yes. So what do I do? You take those steps. So that's safety. That's the safety procedure that you follow. You know, when you tick off those, you look at those check boxes. All this, I have a bunch of them that I always refer my clients or my students to. You have to tick all those boxes and ask yourself, and you have to be very honest with yourself. Am I vulnerable? Can I be attacked through these measures?
Okay. You just have to have a checklist.
You have to have a checklist. You know how pilots work. Even if a pilot that has had a lot of it, let's use a Boeing 737 pilot. He's had more than, let's say, 20,000 flight hours of experience on the type. But whenever they want to take off, they have what we call a pre-flight checklist that they have to go through. They have memory items that they still have to go through. Whether they have flown the plane for their entire life, they still have to go through that before they take off. That is how, and that's why it's according to records, you can win a lottery 10 times before you die in a plane crash, because that drill allows them to to take notice of some of the things they would have actually overlooked. So that is the same thing we should apply to cybersecurity, meaning you should have that checklist that you look at all the time, especially before you work. If you interact with your devices that hold your personal data or information assets, you should ask yourself, tick all those boxes and ask yourself, am I vulnerable in any way to an online threat or a security attack? If there is any way you know that you are vulnerable, you have to take care of it. You have to compensate for it immediately. Take action immediately. That is how you are going to enhance your cyber health and ensure that you keep yourself away from security
We'll come back again for this conversation. We're bringing you again. On that note, we come to the end of today's interesting episode. But before we go, do not forget to like, comment, share, put on a notification bell, because every week we drop amazing content. And also, do not forget that the illiterate of 21st century are not those who did not go to school or those who will not go to school, but they are those who have refused to evolve as their environment is evolving. My name is Providence Essien. See you again.